I love this place. Texas Tech has been a home to me, but I have 4 wonderful kids, and I know this is going to give me an opportunity to spend more time with them.
After mulling retirement in 2012, Coach Siegel decided to officially end his 23-year career in 2015.
That was a big change at that point because we just had a very successful year. The year before he retired, we just beat the #1 team in the country, and we went from 45 in the country to top 16.
Tim loved life, loved being a father. You know, I don't think I've ever met someone who enjoyed being a dad more than him.
Who I am is a father, and that was the sole purpose of leaving Texas Tech. I had thought for a couple of years before about leaving so I could spend more time with my children, and that's what's so hard for me to fathom.
EMS, what's the address of your emergency?
Yes, ma'am. It's on 106th and Salem in the cul-de-sac.
I got a phone call at 2 o'clock and was told Luke was in an accident. Well, I raced over in my car. I didn't go fast enough. I drove fast, but not fast enough. As soon as I got to the scene, the ambulance was just taking off and the helicopter was still hovering above. And then immediately got back in my car and raced to the hospital.
Luke was transported to the same hospital whose southern windows would look over the McLeod Tennis Center, the same hospital Tim passed every day for 23 years.
When I got to the hospital, there was a lot of commotion in the ER. There were a lot of people in there, and I wanted to go up to the ER, but I didn't. I remember pacing, "You're my boy, right? You're my boy, right?" That's all I kept saying, to hopefully keep him going.
During that time, Luke slipped into cardiac arrest for 7 minutes.
I paced for hours, thinking to myself, will I be speaking at a funeral 3 days later?
As news was quickly spreading across Lubbock, Tim's daughter Alex called Todd Petty, knowing their family needed the support of the tennis community.
The women's head coach at Texas Tech, Todd Petty, called me.
My heart dropped in my stomach.
We didn't know the severity.
I didn't know exactly what had happened.
And he didn't have any details, but he knew it was a bad accident.
I knew it wasn't good.
But all we knew is that we were all packing up and we were headed to Lubbock.
So I went ahead and booked a flight to Lubbock and flew out there.
I got on a plane to go see him. Sorry.
It is a blur shortly after, but you know, Alex knew who to call. She knows who are my closest friends. Literally, when the evening rolled around, there might have been 75 to 100 people in the waiting room.
I think we spent 48, 72 straight hours in the hospital with Tim, you know, through the nights of, okay, if he can make it through the next 5 hours, we may be able to save him.
As seconds, minutes, hours, and 6 days passed by, Luke showed no signs of life. It wasn't until that 7th day, 1 week later, that the first of many miracles happened.
A doctor came in and asked me if Luke likes music, and I said outside of sports, Luke loves music. It's his favorite thing. He said, well, I have a ukulele, you mind if I play it? And he started to play, and at that time we saw brain activity. So it wasn't until 1 week later that I knew that my son wasn't brain dead.
Over through she tied you to a kitchen chair. She broke your throne and she cut your hair. From your lips she drew the...
As the hope for survival grew, so did the support. Hundreds of thousands of people across the nation and worldwide tennis community were inspired by the fight of this 9-year-old Lubbock boy.
Hello, Luke. I just want to send you a big hug.
Hey Luke, this is Drew Brees, quarterback for the New Orleans Saints.
I know you are a very strong guy and everything will be much, much better soon.
Just wanted to say I'm thinking about you, buddy. Keep fighting. I'm hoping and praying for full recovery.
And all the best. See you soon.
an amazing hospital with incredible nurses and doctors. But 5 days later, we had our first group meeting with therapists, nurses, and the neurologist. At the end of that meeting, he said, based on the MRI, Luke shouldn't use his limbs or use his voice. My wife and I just sat in the room crying as everybody left, thinking this can't be.
For the first 2 months, it was. Luke did not move on his own, and he did not use his voice. His time at Cook Children's was dwindling down as the doctors saw little improvement.
It was very tough to see somebody so alive and passionate about everything, especially his kids. And that sort of being taken away from him.
While his wife stayed with Luke, Tim would return home to his 3 girls 300 miles away, where he experienced some of his darkest days.
He would show up at his house and you could see him and he's not going to answer the door, and and it was just trying to make him understand, he's living not only for Luke still, but for his other kids, for his wife, and but none of us have ever been in his shoes. I have no idea what he's feeling, and so it was just, that constant trying to break through, trying to give support.
But a breakthrough wouldn't come. A lack of improvement with Luke only produced a greater wall between Tim and the outside world.
I couldn't live. I couldn't answer the phone or the door. I withdrew because a big part of me has died.
But Luke was still fighting. 2 months after that initial meeting in Fort Worth, and 4 months after hearing Luke's voice for the very last time, Luke would shock the 4th floor at Cook Children's.
Wow. People came running over into our room. Nurses, doctors couldn't believe he had made some sounds. And from that point to the day we left on January 6th, he was able to use his voice. The trach came out, and we had hope.
Luke continued to find his voice and make several sounds throughout his stay. One of the best noises he would make 2 weeks later was broken up 3 times.
I love you, I love you.
I don't know that I really have the words to express how proud I am of what he's doing. I imagine it would be pretty easy to quit.
4 days short of 4 months after his 44-day stay at UMC, Luke would return to Lubbock, where he was hoping for a home court advantage in his recovery.
His toughness, his fight, I think he's only getting started.
Luke began intensive occupational, speech, and physical therapy after arriving back in Lubbock.
Talk to us, Luke. Come on, Luke. Push. Come on, there you go. There you go. Good job, Luke. There you go, Luke. We see you. There you go. Good job.
And as Luke took baby steps towards his recovery, the rest of his family did the same.
He's not the same Tim, but he's definitely closer than he was. I feel like he's found a purpose again, with his foundation.
Coach Siegel was talking to all the teams here about his foundation and the 5 things that he wants everyone to live by.
1 is find your passion. I had lost mine. Number 2 is don't ever give up. I was close. Number 3 was to lean on friends, family, counselors, teachers, siblings, parents. I had leaned on no one for a long time. 4 was to make good choices and be careful. My choices were not so good. And number 5 is to have faith.
Even though what happened to Luke was a bad thing, now everyone's aware of the chance that they have to represent Texas Tech, and I think that's a good thing. So Coach Siegel is having a good influence to everyone else in the Texas Tech community, and even more than that.
Before launching the foundation, the people who Tim coached with or against were equally affected.
It does give me, and I believe everybody else who knows about Luke, a different perspective. It's be appreciative of what you have. Enjoy today, because tomorrow is really not guaranteed. love others like you want to be loved, because unfortunately life does throw you some curveballs. And the day before the accident happened, he had no idea he was going to have to go through this for the rest of his life. So it's just to love life. There's no tomorrow.
Everything is perspective. If you lose, it always sucks, and you feel those losses. But I've definitely grown a different perspective on things. Family is everything, and that's the most important thing. So you kind of brush those things aside a little bit easier than you used to, because you have to cherish every second that you have with them.
It's such a cliche, to live life every day, but I keep this wristband on my wrist and to think about Luke, and when I feel myself getting anxious as a coach, I touch that bracelet or I look at that bracelet, and it reminds me that, I'm coaching a sport, and it's not that bad.
After preaching his message, Tim was able to gather enough strength to start a foundation.
A friend of mine called me and said, "You're drowning. I can sense that you're not doing well. You need to consider doing a foundation."
It was great to see that spark back in his eye a little bit, and I think it's the foundation that's putting it back in there. He now has a purpose like he had when he was a coach, when it was about changing the life of a student athlete. Now it's the much higher cause where he's trying to change the lives of kids with brain damage.
I want the word to be out. I want people to be aware of what Tim is doing. He's putting his heart and soul into this. I mean, the guy basically doesn't sleep. He's either taking care of Luke or he's trying to spread the word.
I started this foundation to help families with children who have suffered a traumatic or anoxic brain injury, both emotionally, financially. And I feel like the only way I can live, the only way I can survive, is to help others with a similar type of injury.
Apart from improvement to Luke's overall quality of life, there's one thing Tim is looking forward to the most.
I can't wait to see a mom or a dad show me the look on their face when I can present them a wheelchair or a stander or some encouraging news or whatever it is, because I know I hang on to that every day.
I mean, if it makes a difference in one kid's life, one family, not to have to go through what the Seagulls did, everything, his mission is totally worth it.
All right, boys, today's practice, we're going to think about Luke, keeping our mind, and let's work hard today. Luke on 3, ready? 1, 2, 3, Luke!
I knew that Tim was a really well-liked and well-respected coach, but the way the tennis community has come together to give him support and to show him that everybody's behind him has been incredible. It's just a big proof of what an amazing person Tim Siegel is, and we're gonna keep supporting them.
At the end of the day, we are a big family. Everybody is finding ways to come together on this purpose, because everybody, I think, gets it. Everybody understands the strength in unity.
Hey, Luke.
Hey, Luke.
Hey, Luke. Hey, Luke.
Thinking about you, buddy. I know you're a Red Raider fan, but the Horns are in your corner.
Thank you for your inspiration. Your fight is incredible. We are thinking about you. Luke, we're praying for you. Hope you get well soon.
We support Team Luke. We're cheering you on from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
We wear our bands every day. We're inspired by all of your strength and your resilience.
You were in our thoughts and our prayers. We're all thinking about you, and hope you get better soon.
We just wanted to tell you, keep on fighting in your recovery. To the Siegel family, you'll always be in our thoughts and prayers.
We're celebrating all of Luke's little victories every day here on the hilltop. Keep fighting and inspiring others. We're behind you.
Roll, Luke, roll!
1, 2, 3, Luke!